Well, it's everything we thought it was for 2024 and Justin Timberlake. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Cory.
And this week we are discussing the sixth studio album from Justin Timberlake, his first album in 6 years, Everything I Thought It Was. We've already said Justin Timberlake was part of our Turntables and Tea Hall of Fame because we did both parts of the 2020 experience. Now, almost 2 years ago, we had our buddy Sam on the show to talk about it with us. So, new albums announced, we have to discuss it.
Yeah. I mean, he's in my Hall of Fame period, so
Yes.
I said it last week and I'll say it again. I'm coming at you. Gloves off on this one, JT. What you got? You can't get by on some half-ass stuff here. So let's see what's going on. I was excited. I've been in plenty of Timberlake talks this week with friends, some very heated debates, and it's been fun to talk JT again. I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, but it's funny you say the gloves are off because, well, they kind of have been these past few months, especially in general for Justin Timberlake. It's kind of an odd time for him to be putting out this album because, well, the past few years have brought increased scrutiny to some of the stuff he was involved with back in the 2000s, and I think it reached a new peak with the release of Britney Spears' memoir, where she claimed that she had an abortion and the kid was his, and she presented it as if she was pressured to do this and that she would have kept the baby if it were just her decision. And people have dragged him a lot for that. And are his actions great? No. But a Rolling Stone article back from February, I think rightly noted that realistically, Justin Timberlake's worst crimes are being a privileged white male and a pretty shitty boyfriend. And
you know me, I'm biting my tongue on this one. It's tough. I didn't even put that on him inside of this as far as where he was coming from, but that's an interesting thought of that stuff being stacked on top of putting an album out.
Yeah, it is. And that Rolling Stone article by Britney Spears even rightly mentioned in the lead up to this that all this dragging of him online that's happened the past few years, she said it's led to some revisionist history with people saying like we never thought that much of him as a performer or artist.
Who said that?
People in general say this online now.
These are the debates I've been having all week, which is mind-blowing to me. It's unfounded, in my opinion, from any aspect you look at it. You cannot take away what he's done and like his body of work. You can't say he's not a performer at the top level. It's so wild to me. I don't care if you like him or hate him. It's been a wild week as far as going at him. I've always given him, I'm not even saying benefit of the doubt. I can relate. I think most people have been in a situation where they say, maybe I wasn't the best boyfriend. I'm not saying extremity or to the extreme of what came out in the Britney book, but I've always enjoyed him and I've always respected him because I've always seen an evolution. We joked around about Mickey Mouse Club right before we started the podcast, just talking about it. But if you look at him from then to now, whether it's artist or what I can only perceive through the media of who he is as a father and husband to Beale, now is evolution. And that's what every person should do. Strive to be the best form of yourself. So the struggle is real. And JT, carries the weight of his musicality, of his performances, as well as having to evolve as a man. So I've always respected that of him.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. And another important point here is that this is the follow-up to the Man of the Woods album, which was polarizing back in 2018. I was not a fan of it. I gave it a 4 out of 10 review in my college newspaper, but I know you love it.
I do. You know, if you guys are first time listeners today, you've been with us for a minute. I won't even say guilty pleasure. I dig that album. I have some ties to it emotionally. My son was the first real like Justin Timberlake album. He was young, maybe like 4, 3, and he was digging on it, and it was the one that he would put in his CD player. So it gets an extra boost there, but I dug it, man. I don't know why people hate on that album so
Because it's a
much.
mess. That's why.
It is not the most polished of his discography, but it is a very, in my opinion, it's a very open and very experimental JT, and I dug that. It's a flannel wearing JT in my head,
It's
and I dig it.
I think it had a good concept. I'm not sure about how well it was executed, but it does put him in a new position, and it just was the songs were not as popular as those off of the four preceding albums.
Heard.
Regardless, the commercial performance was not quite as strong. It was thought of as a flop era for him. His first flop, it's like this is the beginning of the end, and but really there hasn't been anything since. There hasn't been much music since other than Trolls soundtracks.
Yeah.
So, and
Which are
some,
bomb.
yeah,
Yeah.
and some features there. So this is the return of Justin Timberlake, and he is going all out to promote it. He's made the talk show rounds, done appearances with all his friends. He went on SNL with Jimmy Fallon. He's done some concerts, one of which had a NSYNC reunion at it recently. He did a Tiny Desk concert. He's going all out to promote this and let people know he's back. And
did you see the Tiny Desk?
I did.
It's good.
It is good.
It's a lot of people for the Tiny Desk, but it's good.
It is. I have a thought on that when we get into the album. That's for sure. We will get there when we get there. But so far, the reception's been. I mean, many are pointing out like he's flopping. It's been a bit muted, but also let's consider the fact that this isn't a new artist at this point. He is over 20 years into his solo career, not even counting NSYNC. He's at a different space. Most of his peers, their new releases do not pick up steam like they once did. The only one of his peers that is still making hit songs on that level is Beyonce.
I'm right with you. That's who I would have said.
That's the only one. I mean, she's done it right now. It's not any of them. They've all, everybody has, it all comes in cycles. New people will come along, but everybody else has, they do not make hits currently. You do not hear hits from Britney, Christina, even Usher. You don't hear his current hits, but they've got enough hits. They have a legacy, and Justin at this point is a legacy artist. And that's not a bad thing. To quote one of his songs, it's not.
He's a legacy artist, but he's a workhorse. I've always dug that about him. Hot tea take. He's a workhorse to me, like Elton John is as a legacy artist, where I think we'll get stuff from him, at least collaborations throughout his life. He's just an artist that will always, in my opinion, will always be adding to the art of the world in some way.
I mean, he is prolific, that is for sure. I don't think he's quite as prolific as Elton John, but then again, he hasn't been around this long. But
yeah, he's got a few years.
he's got some time to get to that level, but he has done a lot of work, and he's given us 18 new songs on this album. So he's, I mean, he said that he's been working on this album for 4 years. So I'm sure there's many more songs that were recorded, but this is what he's given us. We've got these 18 new songs. And how it will do next week on the Billboard charts is to be determined. We have to wait a few days to find that out. I
Yeah.
don't think it doesn't look like it's going to be a #1 debut.
Yeah, I mean, he got beat up Metacritic, it's
Yeah,
like 51.
yeah, the reviews have been mixed from the critics. And that does pose a question because in a way he has become an internet punching bag. It's cool to hate on him, but I mean, in like the Twitter sphere, it is cool too. He's a popular person to dunk on in large part because of that book. But is there validity to it? I think that's the question that we need to ask ourselves. And we may not be Rolling Stone or Pitchfork, but we are going to throw our review in there as well. We're going to add to this. We're going to add our thoughts on the album, whether it's counted on Metacritic or not,
I heard that.
because that's what we do here at Turntables and Tea. So, with that being said, we've got a lot of songs to cover. So, I think we need to get started because we got 18 songs to go through.
Let's get at it.
All right. So, the album begins with Memphis, which is named after Justin's hometown. And he produced it with Danger, a familiar name from the Future Sex Love Sounds era. This has already become the most derided song on the album. People do not like this song, and a lot of it's because of a rap verse at the end. I mean, I don't love that either. Other than that, the song doesn't bother me too much. I do think that the way his voice is produced, I feel like they're making him sound like Drake. I don't love that because he's not Drake. He's Justin Timberlake. If I want to listen to Drake, I'll listen to Drake. I don't think this is a great opener. I think it's a bit static musically until he starts rapping, and it's not as self-aware as he wants it to be. I don't think it's as bad as some think it is, but I don't love it, and it does go up from here.
Oof, man. First glance, first listen. Oof, tough opener. Tough opener. Slow start. I have Drake in my notes, but like we're talking about cadence, we're talking about very, very close melodic representation there that just doesn't sound like him to me. I'm searching, listening. By the end of our take today, I'll come back and touch on this one. But as far as first time listener on the album, ooh, man, Silver Lining Playbook, first time listener trying to be like, okay, what's going on? Maybe he's giving us a message of how he feels for the rest of the album. Big question marks in my notes here on this one. You're coming out of Man in the Woods, and you're the man to me. In my opinion, you're the man. This is a tough choice for album opener, man. You could have stuck this in somewhere, and I think it would have set. So for me, without being justified as, no pun intended, without this one having a meaning and being here for a reason, it's a throwaway track.
No, it is.
It's very damn close to a throwaway.
I think it's a throwaway.
And I'm glad you touched on it earlier. We're going to touch on it throughout, or at least I am. This is all over 4 years, and I think this is our first taste for me of this really all over the place thought process in here. There's a little bit of a cohesiveness that I feel is lost here, and I personally put that to this being written over 4 years.
Oh yeah, this is not. We're up. It's not going to shock anybody to say this is not his most cohesive statement at all.
Heard.
But doesn't mean we're not going to talk about it. So we're going to move past that and go on to track 2, which is Fucking Up the Disco. This was produced with Angel Lopez and Federico Vindver. They are on this album a lot, and it in addition to Calvin Harris, who's a very big name producer. And Rolling Stone in their review compared this to Let the Groove Get In from 2020 Experience. I can definitely hear that. I think it's a bit more modern sounding than that one, and it's quite a bit shorter. I mean, it has the sound that you expect from him, and I think that's probably helpful for many after Man of the Woods to return to that. Do I think it does it as well as some of those songs? No, but I do think it's a solid dance tune. It's a Pitchfork did say that the lyrics evoke an overserved IT technician at a conference rap party, which I thought was kind of funny, but
that's a hell of a criticism right there.
they said this was one of the album's highlights.
And they said he sounded like a drunk IT guy at a conference.
With the lyrics, yes, they said the lyrics.
Heard. It's warming up at least, of coming off that. I like the beat. I'm gonna talk about this a lot without any notes. First time through, I was like, oh Timbaland's on this all the way through. Like, here we go, track 2. I can already hear Timbaland in here, and this is me not even looking at production notes and seeing what's going on. And then later on, I find out he's not on this track. So we've got this new age Timbaland-esque musical mentality sense that's starting here, and it's so weird because he's not on this track. Maybe that's me nitpicking, or maybe that's something I can't get over, but I want to state that, and I'm going to come back to it a bunch. This one, I'm not a big fan of autotune. If you've been listening, you know that from me. I don't hate it automatically, but I need it to have a purpose musically. This is Justin Timberlake. He has one of the best voices out there. Why are you auto-tuning his vocals in here if it's not to like give a robotic sense? We're on top of this disco dance track, and then you go ahead and start auto-tuning them. I'm not a big fan of that either. It's an okay track. It is. It's starting a fun dance movement on this album. It's getting warmed up is the best I can put it. Let the Groove Get In. I got another one later on the album that I think really sings to it almost, and in a great way. But this one for me didn't really have Let the Groove Get In vibes to it.
Yeah, no, it is odd that there are producers that are not Timbaland evoking his sound, and that happens more than once on this album.
Evoking is a very kind word.
Yeah.
I will be the unkind word, and they are biting his style. I'm talking about full on biting his style. Like, I had to go back, I'll say 6 or 7 tracks. I don't know for sure, but I had to go back and edit my notes because I'm praising Timbaland throughout this whole thing. Like, oh, here he is. Maybe this is a new age sound for him, blah, 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 blah. And then come to find out he's on the tracks that I didn't even think were him. So that's a weird thing for me.
Very weird.
More so as like someone who knows his stuff. But yeah, man, it's weird. It's almost like they were like, hey, can we just sample your style throughout this whole album and we'll put you on a few tracks? I don't know why I have such a beef with that, but I do.
It's definitely jarring. I will absolutely say that, but I do want to note this. So the sample at the beginning of I have the new JT album, it is actually a sample from the sitcom Three's Company. That's John Ritter you're hearing.
Oh, yeah?
I did not know that at first, but that's hilarious to me, especially since obviously in Three's Company times, JT is James Taylor.
I love it. I did not know that. That's cool.
I found that out today. I love that they did that. I love John Ritter. May he rest in peace.
That's neat. I like that.
I did. That does bump the song up a bit for me. He should have gotten a feature credit, though. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
But the same team as the second track is on the follow-up, which is No Angels, which is actually the second single. He premiered it on Jimmy Kimmel Live. This one's got some funk to it. It's a nice groove. Again, Timbaland-esque. But I do think it's a bit more subtle than other Justin songs throughout his discography in that kind of disco funk vein. But I think it works okay for what it is. I do like it better than the previous song. And I don't think it's a bad single choice.
No, I don't either. I'm with you. I think it's single worthy. I enjoy it. I love the bass line. I'm using the word love there on that bass line. This is Get Up and Dancing. We finally at track 3, or where, in my opinion, we should be on a JT album at track 1, or at least in the feeling of it. So here at track 3, I'm like, okay, a little bit of a shaky start. Here we go. I'm beating a dead horse already at this point, but you're telling me that Timbaland isn't not a producer of this song. I mean, it goes into an old school beatbox breakdown of his classical style. This is a performer with a very, very unique style, and it is a full on biting of it. It's not even like an inspired kind of thing. It doesn't take away from this song, but it's just so wild to go back in the notes. This is one of the first ones where I had to be like, oh my God, that wasn't Timbaland. Like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
But it's a good one. It's a good one. I dig it. It's definitely single worthy. I'll say that again. And it's a good get up and dance. Here we go on this album.
Yeah, we're gonna keep the dance vibe going with track 4, which is Play. Several producers on it, the biggest names of which are Ryan Tether and Danger. So Timbaland influence is a bit more understandable there. Danger is one of the producers.
Heard.
Um, I feel like this is a bit too similar of a sound to the previous two songs. I feel like we're recycling ideas very early on here. And I think the lyrics are a double entendre that barely even qualify as a single entendre. There's no mistaking what this song is about. I think this kind of song has been done better elsewhere. It's okay, but it's kind of short. It doesn't take me out of the album. It's all right for me.
I actually really love this one. This is
Okay.
one on my like play it a bunch. I like this one for the musicality of it. I love the way his vocal rolls down the chromatic scale in the intro here. I really dig that. This song is funky as all get out. For me, it's like a perfect daytime party anthem almost, and I really enjoy the horns on the way out. This for me is the most solid composition so far in its musicality and the way that it's polished. I dig this one.
That's very fair. That's very fair. But Timbaland is on this album, and it's his first appearances on the next track, which is Technicolor, a 7-minute song. So that's a nice callback to the 2020 era right there, which is filled with 7-minute songs. And same producer, too. And I love it. It would not sound out of place on that album, but I don't feel the need to compare it to those songs because it manages to be a highlight here. I'm glad that these guys are able to evoke the sound of some of their best work over a decade later. And it's a good song. I mean, is it similar to what they did before? Yes, but in this case, more of the same isn't a bad thing. And there is time removed enough from it as opposed to part 2 of the 2020 experience that more of the same is welcome in 2024. It's good to hear this before it feels like home, and it's a very good JT song.
I think it's an okay song. I really like the story. Maybe you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I'm super jaded about this Timbaland shit. I'm sorry. And this is like going back and finding out this is the first track that he's really like in the notes on this track, it's wild to me. For me, this slow beat doesn't achieve the movement it should with the way the story moves. And it's and not in a terrible sense, it's a good song, but the the wiki from Timbaland here just it feels less like him than most of the stuff so far on this album, and that irks me. Like I said before, it stays around just a tad too long for me. I give the story 100. I'm with him. He doesn't lose me there, but musically, this one it doesn't match up for me as much as I want it to. Not a bad track by any means, but I'd like a little bit more from them. I'm being super critical on this. There was warnings ahead of time here. I expect more. I will say that. I expect more from these two together. Especially when they got 7 minutes to do it in. So not a bad track, and not something that takes me out of the album. This is in my highly critical opinion as far as this one goes.
We can't pull any punches. It's
No,
not
this is
what
Hall
we
of Fame.
do.
Hall of Fame. Come on.
Yes. But we're now at the 1/3 point of the album with track 6, which is Drown. Okay, the title of this alone evokes Cry Me a River. That's
Oh,
it does. Come on. That was one of the first
I like
things
it.
I thought of.
I like it.
But this is produced by Louis Bell and Circuit, who are pretty standard top 40 producers. They've done songs for a lot of artists that are newer than JT, and that's wild to me because this is a flip position of where Justin Timberlake was in 2008 when he produced most of Madonna's Hard Candy album and did 4 minutes with her. And now Justin is working with the current hitmaker producers. It's just crazy how that tide has turned to me. I think the song's okay, but I think that it's an angry song, but it's very muted in its production and vocal delivery. And as a result, it doesn't fully land for me. It was a promo single. I'm glad that it's not a full single. This is this might be the first complete it's a filler track. I'll say it's a filler track for me. And this is again, I feel like he's just chasing this is the first major example of Justin chasing a trend and going for the obvious hit, and it's just not connecting. This is the first overt example of that we get on this album.
Oh man, I agree with you. I'm with you. I want to touch on pacing a bit here because we were talking about how it felt overpaced in the beginning. Now we're getting a lot of similar tracks next to each other at this point, and this one, even though it's a bit slower than the previous track, it musically it hits fuller to me, and it excels musically at least keeping my interest. It's a cool story with some neat ideas musically as far as the drowning and echo sounds, but and this is straight out of my first time listening notes, and I still feel this way, not the top of his craft. It's maybe solid, but not what I expect from him. And I love the way you said it. He's chasing this, he's reaching, and unfortunately, this one definitely doesn't stick the landing, as we like to say.
No, not at all. But he's going to actually continue chasing a bit, but maybe with some more success on the next song, which is Liar. This features the Nigerian singer Fireboy DML. So yes, Justin Timberlake dips into Afro beats on this song.
Right?
Another newer thing, but more inspired than generic top 40 bullshit, which we were getting previously. So I am happy that it's step up from that for sure. I think that Fireboy gives the song the energy that it needs, because outside of that, this song's pretty redundant. There's not a whole lot there lyrically. They got to just kind of go back to the same thing. And I don't love that. I'm glad that it gets a boost from a guest because this is the kind of song that needs that.
Yeah, they work well together on this track. I will say that. And I dig the beat here. But I'm with you, but I'm on a flip stance of I'll ask the hot take here. Is this a Fireboy DML track featuring Justin Timberlake? That's where I'm at on this one. The energy that he brings for me, and I wasn't going to ask this, but I keep going back to it, and I really do feel that it is pretty much a Fireboy DML track with a Justin feature. It's wild how that happens here, and I'd like to think that it's him pushing and getting artists up there, but this is a JT album, not a Fireboy DML track. It's a cool track, but is it a Justin Timberlake track? I ask you, what do you think?
I think it's a duet between the two artists.
Heard that. Heard
I
that.
do. I think like vocally they're pretty split evenly, even if it's more in the style of the other artist. But I think Fireboy wants to do that. This isn't the first American artist he's collaborated with. I think he wants to cross over because he did a song with Ed Sheeran. He did a remix of Frozen with Madonna. He wants to do that. I think he really is looking to expand his reach, and this is a way to do it.
That's a perfect way to do that. I just think that this could be on a Fireboy DML album, and
Oh yeah,
we wouldn't blink an eye, you know.
No, it'll probably be on his next album.
Heard.
It'll be like one of those kind of songs where it's on both albums. Not the first time that's happened.
Of course.
Yeah. But we don't have a feature on the next track, which is Infinity Sex, Timbaland production, very funk and disco influenced. I mean, this is definitely the best dance tune so far on the album. I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say it's the best, but it's definitely the best so far. I think it moves very nicely. They're in their element here. Is it the best dance song they've ever done? Not by a mile. Does it work for what it is? I think it does. I even like the spoken word bits. What I will say is I think this song is begging for an extended remix. I think it's a bit too short. It needs there's more there.
I love it. We're going hardcore critical, and I think we're hitting a lot of the same spots, and I dig that. This one, until the breakdown, this one starts to fall flat inside of repetitiveness inside the composition. I think it would really benefit from a remix because it comes out of the gate funky. I like it. It gave me some bringing sexy back vibes and some Jamiroquai vibes, which I liked. I like that flow. I think it fit well here. I don't think this is polished to the point where it can be. There's going to be one or two more coming up that I think there are hits inside. And I worry inside these 4 years if that's the reason why these hits are so almost over polished, where they just fall flat. They're not what I expect on this high level. Cool jam, definitely a great dance song. I'm with you as far as it's up there for top so far, in my opinion, dance wise. But this one, it can use some work. Man, it's been tough for me throughout, man. I thought I was gonna hit on some stuff that you weren't feeling, but it seems like this is what the music is saying here, and it's tough. It's not a shitty album so far, but it's not what I expected. I'll tell you that. No pun intended.
I mean, that's a fair point. I'm not. Well, I'll discuss my expectations more at the end because we're now at the halfway point, track 9 with Love and War, Timbaland production. This is the worst song on the album so far. This is the most generic love ballad that could have been made. It's trite lyrically, production-wise. This is a grocery store dentist office kind of song. It's so lame, and it already sounds dated. It doesn't sound like a 2024 song, and not in a cool, it doesn't sound dated in a cool way. This did not need to be on an album. This was much better left on the cutting room floor, and I'm quite disappointed that they thought this was one of the 18 best songs they could have come up with in 4 years.
I can't believe that these two, because this is another Timberland track, looked at each other and said, yeah, that bass hit there is exactly what I want behind this great story. I dig the lyrics here. I'm okay with them. I think this is another, for me, this is another example of one that this song would super sing with a bit of a softer composition and a softer hand. It is musically off-putting to me. And I don't know if that was supposed to be trying to reach for him. I'm trying to give benefit of the doubt. If that was supposed to be for this love and war conflict, so this beautiful story on top of this very off-putting composition, but I can't. That's a super reach for me. I cannot be about this. This is in my first listening notes. This is gun to the head for me, and it's got my boys both on it, and it is. You could have left this off, and nobody would have even been the worst. And I rarely ever say that, but
nobody needs this song. It's useless. Well, sorry, but it's useless.
Yeah, man.
But good news. We are past the halfway point with track 10, Sanctified. This features Toby Wigwe, a rapper and singer of Nigerian descent. He's been an up-and-comer. He was actually nominated for Best New Artist at the Grammys last year. So somebody up-and-coming, and based on the title, this very much, you can kind of pick up, this is very much a church-based song. It has a real gospel feel to it, both lyrically and musically. And it's the most rocking song on this album, for sure. And I think it's a great song. This plays into the strengths of Justin as a performer and his band's strengths. They're really utilized well here. And there's a good reason that on his SNL performance, he chose to play this song, because this is definitely a live song. I think he specifically wrote it to be a showstopper at the concerts. And I'm sure it will be a tour highlight, but even though it's a live song, I think it's an album highlight as well. And Britney Spears gave the song a shout out, and she was right to do so, I think.
Yeah, I'll be honest. At first listen, like right off the bat, I was like, ugh. I don't know if I like the way this is going, but this composition is so beautifully complex. It gets a hard rock bridge. I love this song, man. I love the way it is done. This is up there for me for best track on the album. I'm right with you. Really well done. This is exactly what I expect. And even with an up and comer on it, it doesn't in any way show signs of inexperience here. It is really, really well done.
Most definitely. This is a great utilization of those Tennessee kids, that's for sure.
I heard that.
Yeah, but we're going to go back to the dance floor with track 11, which is my favorite drug, a not Timbaland produced Timbaland beat from Circuit and Louis Bell. But I think it's their best production here. I mean, for a Timbaland knockoff, it's a well done Timbaland knockoff. I do find the call and response bit a bit forced, and obviously it's a rip off a bit of Senorita, which is a better song. But I'm glad the song's 5 minutes. These disco influenced songs need that time to breathe, and he did that with Future Sex Love Sounds. We got 7-minute songs there. They flowed together, and I'm glad this is a 5-minute song. would it have been better, hopefully? Well, actually, no. I'm not going to say it would have been better with somebody else producing it automatically, because based on what we've heard here so far, I'm not quite sure. But for a knockoff of Future Sex Love Sounds, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm a sucker for that. Tune in the radio, treble heavy retro intro. Bass here, I love it. It's funky, it's beautiful. I love the chorus here. I'm a big fan of the call and response. I don't feel like it's too contrived, and ain't nothing better than Everybody Dance and that wild, beautiful bass drop, man. It's a feel good jam. It really is well done. I enjoy this track. I really enjoy this track.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah.
And we're now on to track 12, but we're going to slow it down a bit again with Flame. Now, Pitchfork stated, quote, that this song, quote, shoots for the cinematic swoop of what goes around comes around, but trades the intricacy of Future Sex Love Sounds' karmic ballet for smooth radio piano, sound-baked samples of siren wails, and arson metaphors piled like dusty coals that are never going to take. That's quite harsh. I can see where they're coming from, but a second-rate version of What Goes Around Comes Around is still a pretty good song, especially if you have Danger and Rob Knox producing it. So I really enjoyed this song. I think it's one of the best on the album, and I think it should be a single. I really do. I think that it's a radio-friendly song, but it still sounds like a Justin Timberlake song, unlike these lame ballads that could be done by anybody. This is him all the way, and I think it would make for a great music video, too. It's not What Goes Around Comes Around, but a step down or two isn't bad at all.
Yeah, even though I hold him at a level and I know his discography, I think it's very tough critically to draw such a heavy line in comparison here. For me, I love this composition. The marching snare that drives this jam, I'm going to use it for the first time tonight, is genius. I'm going to go almost opposite of them and say, for me, this feels so polished and perfect. It sings as a Timberlake song. I really jam on this. I think that their criticism is very harsh.
I agree.
I don't know. I'm on the outside of that one. I dig this track. I think it's one of the better tracks on the album.
Oh, by a mile. By a mile, this is one of the best here.
Yeah.
By a mile. But we're going to go from the flame to our imagination for the next song. This is another track produced by Circuit and Louis Bell. That, again, sounds like Future Sex Love Sounds. But it's a short and sweet disco dance funk kind of tune. But, again, this is another thing. This song needs to be longer. It's too short. What makes these good dance songs, even back in the 70s, what made those songs breathe a lot of the times were those extended cuts, not the short version you heard on the radio. And we heard that before from Justin on his best albums. There's something great here, but it ends too abruptly, and that disappoints me, because I really like what's here a lot, but I know there's more there.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. This is one of those tracks that I do back to back to back because that is my beef with it. It should go on for way longer. It's a dirty track. The way this beat hits is pure dance for me. Like, I love it. You're totally right. This disco feel, or even this old school feel with these synths, it needs time to breathe because this one flows, man. And I'm with you. I wish it was longer. It's a cool track. I wish it was longer.
Most definitely. Yeah, and that's a compliment, by the way. We wish some of these songs were longer, Justin. Yeah. You had time to do it, man.
Right.
All right. Anyway, enough of that for now. We're on to track 14, What Lovers Do. Rolling Stone noted that Maroon 5 beat him to this one. And that was an apt quote because this is another generic ass radio song that Timbaland produced. No, this is not good. It's a filler song and it sounds dated, not in a cool retro way at all. The best thing I can say about it is it isn't too long, but I am not a fan of this at all. This belongs on the cutting room floor.
This is my guilty pleasure song on this whole album. This is my guilty pleasure song on this whole album because it is exactly what you said. It is, oh man, I can't believe I'm using these words with Timbaland, but it's a cookie cutter Timbaland beat with JT does well on this. It's sexy enough. There's a sexy role here that I dig, but like, this is what I picture if you gave AI the command of give me a Timbaland and Justin Timberlake song, and this is what it did because it's so spot on. It seems fake almost, you know, and the datedness doesn't hit as well, but it's a guilty pleasure for me because it harkens back to those days. It gives me the member berries feeling, so to speak, here of when that was my jam. I don't know if I can't be with you on Cutting Room only because it's my guilty pleasure, but
that's fair. But I just if I want 2000s Timbaland, I'd rather listen to Justified than this.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
I feel you. I think that
not this.
I do think that this. Oh no, but this late in the album, it's almost like they just put it in here. And that's another thing that's that's another beef I have with just the sheer pacing of this album. It feels like it is all over the place, and now we're filling an album with wow, man, I can't believe I said that. Cookie cutter Timbaland and JT. But
it's so cookie cutter.
You could put it on though, and people would be like, "Ooh, what's this?" You know what I'm saying? Only because of the fact that it is so cookie cutter spot on. You know,
well,
it really is.
Well. Speaking of cookie cutter, we're on to our next song, which is the lead single of the album, Selfish. This has gotten a lot of comparisons to Jealous by Nick Jonas, which I could hear that. And Rolling Stone noted that this is him echoing Nick Jonas when Nick Jonas was doing his best Timberlake impression. I don't see the lie there. I mean, it's a solid enough radio tune, but hot tea take, maybe. I don't know if this is his worst lead single because Filthy was at least interesting. This is not interesting. This is such an obvious attempt at getting a hit. And Justin, I'm really going to drag you for this. He's gone in interviews talking about how he was being vulnerable with this song. I do not find this song vulnerable. I find this an extremely calculated attempt to get a hit. I don't get any greater understanding of this performer. And I'm just not. I mean, it's done okay as a single. I don't think it's a horrible song, but I think Justin Timberlake has misrepresented it a bit, and I believe that he's capable of much better. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, my expectations for the album were a bit lower because of this. I thought this is the most boring thing you could have chosen for a lead single. It's safe, but it's not. It doesn't excite me at all.
Lead single is mind blowing. I cannot believe this. I don't think it's safe. And you know, this is Hall of Fame. This is gloves off. But the only thing here that is worth anything is, in my opinion, he's on point vocally.
Oh, he sounds great on the song. I'll give him that.
But it's on top of, and this is straight from the first listen notes, a Casio keyboard beat. Like, this is the most, are you joking my ass? This is your lead single. This is what you chose. Out of all this, to put forth. And I know that he has come forward talking about this, and I try to find some reasoning behind it of like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. This beat stinks. This composition is only listenable to do this podcast because of him sounding good on this track.
I mean,
Oof, man, I have a
honestly,
serious beef with this one.
no, I skip this more often than not when listening to the full album. I can't. And we mentioned the Tiny Desk concert earlier. He did perform this song during it, and it was stripped down. It was not this Casio beat, but it was surrounded by his hits that are beloved for good reason. He performed this in between Until the End of Time and What Goes Around Comes Around.
Yep.
That just made this stick out like a sore thumb and showed what a weak song it is. That just a huge disappointment for me. And I think for many people, it hasn't set the world on fire. That's for sure. Not the way to get people excited for an album, but we are past that now with track 16. We're in the finish line. We're getting close to the end here, and this is Alone, the last song produced by Danger. Rolling Stone compared this to Shawn Mendes, and I think that's an apt comparison because Shawn Mendes definitely makes generic ass pop music, and this is another example of that. And again, Danger, even without Timbaland, you produced Blackout. And you did this, really? No. And again, we talk about he's saying like we want to have these, Justin says, I want to have these revealing songs on the album while also being fun. I don't get anything revealing from this. Maybe this married life just doesn't yield great lyrical material for him at this point, but I get nothing from this, and I would have preferred a cover of the Heart hit of the same name.
I'm not as mad at this one. The solo violin intro is neat into a heartbreak, and I feel I will use the word beautiful. The composition is beautiful in the sense that it's focused musically on the Alone aspect. For me, where this track loses a lot of points is this doesn't feel like a finished thought as a composition. There's pieces here that are nice and it's okay, but especially at this point in the album, I'm looking for a grandiose send-off, and maybe I'm asking too much. I really have gone back and forth with myself on that. Like, are my criticisms coming from what I expect? But no, because I hold him to that level, but he's proven that he understands as an artist what it means to fully flesh out an album. And it's another example of I'm just getting way too many mismatched vibes here, and it doesn't work well. Just a lot of stuff that doesn't seem like it's finished, really. And this is one of them. I don't hate this song, but I'm looking for more finished thoughts.
I'm with you on that one, but now we have a big one, folks. The penultimate song, Paradise, featuring none other than NSYNC. Yep, the band is back together here, and they sound great. These boys still have those sublime harmonies that helped catapult them in the first place. JC Chazé even gets a verse. They all sound good, and I'm happy to have a very positive thought at this point in the album. I will say that. It is a breath of fresh air in that regard. It's grown on me a little bit, but overall, I do find this pretty... On its own, the song is pretty underwhelming. It would have been underwhelming if it were just Justin solo. It's definitely underwhelming as a reunion track, and the song they did for the last Trolls movie was a lot better. I liked Better Place. It was a much better, more enjoyable song than this, more interesting and just more fun. Yeah.
It sounds great. It's a nice homage. It's good to see them back together. I was happy. I'm glad you said it. I was happy everybody got a piece, even JC. It was great to hear them together again. 100% with you on the Trolls song. This excelled here for me
Oh, it's in a great
because,
spot here. Absolutely.
and also it's polished, it's full, it's a complete entire thought that's done. It's sad that I shouldn't say it's sad on a JT album. It is very crazy that even in the end third of this album, the NSYNC jam is one of my favorites because it's actually a full produced and polished song, and that's tough for me. It really is.
Oh, I agree. It is. And I think this would have been an ideal album closer for
Yeah.
out of what we have here, out of the songs on this album. I think it would have been, but it's not the album closer. Instead, that is Conditions. This one's kind of more of a mid-tempo kind of ballad here. It took some getting used for me to have this right after Paradise. I did not feel this was a great closing track, and I still don't think it's a great closing track. However, this is definitely the most introspective song on the album by a mile. And this is the only song that lives up to that promise of being revealing that Justin Timberlake has teased in interviews. It does not reach the emotional heights of past JT ballads. This is not Mirrors. But for this album, it does give me that. And I think that the opening up here is able to override the generic top 40 shit we were hearing earlier. And yeah, it has a place on this album, just not at the end.
Yeah. So there's a reason why I think it's on the end, and there's also a reason why I think Paradise was meant to, or originally the closer for this. And it might be conspiracy, and it might be me reaching, trying to find a bow on this package. I'm going to get to that. I want to start off by saying he sounds great on this.
Yes.
He
Yes,
really
he
kills
does.
it. And I'm 100% with you, and glad that you already touched on it. The fact that this is what I expected as far as revealing, as far as letting us in. And he really hits a home run there for the first time almost on this album, really letting us in. I love the message of the persevering love, and it feels right in this song. I have a beef with the sudden stop on the last note. It is very, very weird to me. I will let it slide only on the fact that it's, I don't know, that it's the end of the album. Maybe he was trying to do something that was a statement piece. I said conspiracy, but I can't find it anywhere. Long story short, the same musical thought from the original track is here. But if you go back to Memphis, that it almost sounds like a lo-fi intro, but I believe that it is the reverse track of the intro to this song, or the main theme to this song. So what I'm saying is that it's played backwards in this like crispy album lo-fi type of feel. And that's the only reason I can see why these are bookends on this album, and that why this is a closer. Maybe that's me reaching because I want it to be this bow, like I said, but just wanted to share that thought with you. Maybe something to go back and check out. As a closer, it's beautiful, but it stops way too hard for me. So unfortunately, it's not a perfect closer in any right.
No, not at all. Still a cool song, but I think when it comes to letting things slide, I think at a certain point we had to let quite a few things slide with this album.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, I'm gonna let you start with the final thoughts on the grade, and then I'll share mine.
Oh man, my man JT back. Everything I thought it was, everything I thought it was gonna be. Unfortunately, it was it wasn't really for me. It wasn't a cohesive piece. It wasn't a statement piece. It wasn't the statement piece that I was expecting, that I thought it was going to be. There are some cool thoughts in here, but ultimately, outside of very few tracks, I don't think that there are highs here. And it's so crazy for me to say that on a Justin Timberlake album. I feel like the majority of this album is in this middle valley, and there are lows on this album. More than a few, unfortunately, whether it be musically or whether it just be not a polished, complete thought. I find myself wanting way more on this album. The length of it is really marred by the pacing, and that's another huge thing, especially for us going through these albums. It's definitely something we grade on. I, for this sole fact that I can't say C plus out of my mouth for JT, I give this a B minus. But you all hear where I'm at on this one, and it hurts my heart, man. I'll still be dancing the tracks on this song, on this album, but man, I really thought we were going to get something a lot more. It is not everything that I thought it was going to be.
So I'm a bit on the other end when it came to my expectations for the album, because I did not like Man of the Woods, and I didn't return to it after listening to it only once or twice. I felt no need to, and I didn't love the lead single, of course. I made that very clear, and I still don't love it, even if I've gotten used to it. So I was not expecting. I didn't have the highest expectations, so I came in and I was able to find stuff that I liked. So I'm very happy that I found good songs here. However, it has been noted that these songs often evoke past Timberlake songs, and that is an issue for me because it does remind me how good and strong some of his earlier albums are. And no, they were and still are. It reminds, and that does cause a bit of a problem for me because we are not reaching those highs of the past. And I'm going to give it a C. And real hot tea take here. I know Justin is definitely trying to make a comeback. He's suffered some very bad PR the past few years. Not all of it deserved, in my opinion. Some of it, yeah, but not all of it. I don't think this album, unfortunately, he didn't come back with his best work at all. And I really think if he wants good PR at this point, if this is the best album that he could give us, he needs to do a NSYNC reunion album and or tour. If this is the best solo album he could have given us after working on it for 4 years.
Whew, harsh words, but I
that's
feel
how
you.
I feel
feel
about
you.
this.
Yeah. No, I feel you. Ooh, that was a harsh one. Either get back with NSYNC or do better. Actually, that's what we expect from you, JT.
No.
So I'm with you, Charlie. Either get back with NSYNC or do better than this.
Yes, do better than this. That's it. And there are flashes of greatness there, but it doesn't reach to the level it needs to. And he's not innovating anymore at all.
I will say that I am a huge pundit for my opinion of he is our generation's Michael Jackson, or this next generation's Michael Jackson. And unfortunately, this album does not help my case when
this is on the level of like Invincible for Michael Jackson. Let's if we're gonna go with that analogy, let's just say that. But well, I hope you can release another one then that's better than this. Yes. Michael didn't get a chance to, sadly, but
yes, please bring us another one.
Or get back with your boys. But anyway, that's everything I thought it was. An underwhelming return for one of pop's greats.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite track on this album?
No, I do. I do.
Okay.
It's Sanctified. That's a genuinely great song. And I'm looking forward to hearing it on tour. I am going to the tour still, Justin. I don't hate you, I promise.
Sanctified's up there for me. I really like My Favorite Drug. It makes me dance. It hits the notes that I want from him. And JT, this is your sound here. This is how you do it. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
Drop Everybody dance, drop a badass bass, and keep them moving because you've done it so well for so many years. I give you a pass on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Gotta give some grace, but now that does it for us. And so to kind of tie these new releases together, since this is a leap year, we've I've gotten to pick a leap year album, but you have not yet. So have you picked one?
Going back to the leap year of 1996, one of my favorite bands that we haven't done. I'll probably tell this story many times next week, but I used to wear their band t-shirt almost every day for that whole year, or the year before this. But long story short, we're going to do Down on the Upside by Soundgarden.
Oh, fun. I'm excited. This is the year I was in utero. So we're going to get a little grungy, and we might again later this year, so I think it'll be good. But yeah, the week after that, stay tuned. We'll be taking another left turn because we just like to do it all here on Turntables and Tea.
Yeah, man.
But while you're waiting for that, of course, subscribe where you're listening to us, leave us a nice review, and follow us on social media. Links are in the description. And yeah, we're going to meet you down on the upside next week. Until then, take care of yourselves.
Peace.